there's a rumbly in my tumbly. That's telling me it's time for a small smackerel of something sweet.
Sweet Jesus, Paul, that's not honey. That's the strength and will required to restore the Roman Emperor.
Oh, bother.
Anyways, here's Wonderwall.
And welcome everybody, our one glorious member in the chat, whoever you are. Thank you so much for joining me and my co-host, Miranda Barca. I am tonight your Alexandros III simp. And tonight, on this edition of When in Persia, it has been When in Rome has been abducted and taken over by the truly superior empire of Alexander the Third of the Argead dynasty, or Alexander Megas, or Alexander the Great, whatever you want to call him, the greatest man to have ever lived. Alexander has taken over. So, thank you for joining us on this crazy evening, because tonight is Gaugamela night. And we're about to go and talk a bit more about that. Before I do that, say hello to my lovely co-host, Miranda Barca. Miranda Barca, introduce yourself to the chat for those who do not know who you are.
Hello, friendly neighborhood Carthage apologist here. History nerd and general weirdo.
We appreciate all of those things except for the Carthage apologist bit. We will be working on that as the show progresses.
We will not.
One of these days, we're going to get Miranda to utter the words Hannibal Barca isn't all that great.
Never
even if it just takes me getting some people who are willing to clip a bunch of things together and Frankenstein it so that way I can play it.
No.
Oh, man. Anyways, so as I said at the beginning of the show, tonight is a special night. So the reason why tonight is a special night is that on this day in 331 BCE, Alexander the Great faced off with Darius III for the ultimate battle of control over the heart of the Persian Empire on a plain called Gaugamela. Now, Alexander's force was tiny by comparison. Not to say that he had a small army by his contemporary standpoint. Like, it was a rather large force. Alexander, if we're going off of the primary sources, brought with him around 47,000. And actually, a lot of modern archaeologists agree with this figure. One of the few times where you have some coincided accuracy there. So that was the estimated size of the Macedonian army is 47,000. Ancient sources will claim that the size of the Persian army is between 250,000 and 1 million.
Really? I saw 50 to 120.
So the modern estimates are between 50,000 and 250,000. But even from the modern estimate standpoint, I would go for the 250,000. There is no way that Gaugamela.
I don't think it was 50. That's for sure. No, that'd be too close.
To say that it was 50,000, I think would be incredibly disingenuous to the kind of army that Darius III could have mustered as like the final defense of his holdings. My phone is going off like crazy, so we're turning that off because that's going to drive me nuts. Anyways, we'll say that the conservative estimate is 250,000. I think that that's far more in line with what we could expect from Darius pulling from the resources across his entire empire. Yes, a solid chunk of it had fallen to Alexander up to this point. At this point in time, Alexander had bested Darius's forces in two major battles. Two major battles and a couple of sieges.
Yes.
So we had, by the time of the Battle of Gaugamela, we had the first major encounter was at the Granicus River, right across from the Hellespont, which is the narrow body of water that bridges the gap between the European continent and Southwest Asia, right there on the Black Sea. So they cross over that, and they have a battle at the Granicus River. And Alexander wins that pretty handily. Darius isn't actually at that battle. It's one of his main generals, Memnon of Rhodes, who will proceed to be a thorn in Alexander's side for a good chunk of his campaign until his death. But Darius will then meet Alexander in open battle for the first time at the Battle of Issus. And at Issus is where Alexander really gets like the first big major win of this thing, because Issus allows Alexander to cement himself as a genuine contender for the Persian throne. And as a result of the Battle of Issus, you have the territories of Lydia and Egypt surrender themselves to Alexander without hostilities, and this allows Alexander to go to Egypt and become the new Egyptian pharaoh, and gets effectively. I don't know if the term deified is proper, because it wasn't like an official ceremony, but this is where he goes to the. Mo Biggs is letting us know I'm here. Everyone, hail the chat. Hail Ogden Miranda. He's one of 3 people here. Hopefully you'll be hanging out with us here in a little bit as well. At 10 p.m., I believe I'll be heading over to launch the Embrace 2's Fund My Comic, and we'll talk a little bit about that here later. But for right now, it's time to talk Alexander. It's Alexander Day. It's Gaugamela Day. We're gonna be great today because it's Gaugamela Day. Reni's channel. She never posts the link until like 30 or 40 minutes prior anyway. Like you haven't missed the announcement.
Keeps everyone on their toes.
I announced it on Twitter, but like we have like the new Shelby Robertson cover. That's our spooky season. We'll bring that up towards the end of the stream. But that being said, setting the stage for Gaugamela, by this point, Alexander has defeated Darius for his first time at the Battle of Issus, and has received a good chunk of territory of the Persian Empire as a result. And in fact, right before in between Issus and Gaugamela, Darius sends a missive to Alexander, offering him the opportunity to retain his territories and everything like that, and effectively become a satrapy of Persia if he goes and returns, ceases his campaign and returns to Macedonia. And offers him a whole bunch of stuff. And so Alexander's commanders, normally his right-hand guy, who's a high-ranking officer from his father's time, this Parmenion, goes, if I were you, I would take this deal. And Alexander responds curtly, I would take this deal too if I was a Parmenion, but I am Alexander. And Alexander instead responds with a very below-the-belt message that effectively says, this isn't your territory anymore. It's mine. I can do with it what I want. If you want to reclaim what's yours, come and fight me for it. Take it back through force of arms. And, oh, by the way, in your future missives to me, you will address me as king of all Asia. Because that's what I am. I beat you. I beat you once and I'll do it again. And so now this sets the stage for Gaugamela. But before we go and take a look at a fantastic video done by Kings and Generals, Miranda, our shitpost digger brought up glorious memes. So Miranda, would you mind sharing your screen with the memes that you brought up today?
Give me a second.
Rumor has it that Alexander even killed Gargamella's cat, Ezreella. Very, very, very clever, Mel.
All right. Give me 1 second.
Do you know how to share screen, honey, or do you want me to help?
I just gotta find the stuff from the chat earlier. See, you didn't fill me in on this stuff, so didn't.
I've got the first one of your memes up. Let me make sure. Okay. I remembered the right direction.
I don't have it on my laptop, sir.
I got it. I got you. Beautiful. All right.
Okay.
Let's go.
You take care of it. I did all the hard work anyway.
Oh, 100%. So we start off our meme quest with, okay, I'm a fight, Alexander. Damn, companion cavalry got hands. They're not the only ones. Wouldn't want to go up against the Peshetiroi. Not fun day. This is fantastic.
This is my favorite one.
Outlaw slavery, create one of the greatest empires of all time, but still remembered as the bad guy because of some dude named Alexander. To Alexander's credit, I don't think that this is the right finger pointing. It's way more the Athenians and the Spartans. But yes, the sentiment is absolutely correct. Persia treated their subjects with respect and raised their quality of life. Athens, unfortunately for you, history will not see it that way. Yes, this one's far more accurate. Athens to Sparta. At least we treat our slaves better than you savages. Persia. You guys have slaves? And like that's the very ironic thing, right? It's like the Greeks really only banded together against Persia because they didn't want to have the yoke of monarchy thrust upon them. They wanted to retain their independence, to effectively squabble amongst themselves and enslave one another at their own leisure. So it's really funny because Persia's strategy to handling Greece later on is literally just throw one of these hegemonic powers money from time to time and fund a proxy war any single time that somebody has an idea that targets Persia, which is really fun. So then, will I ever be as good as Napoleon? Will I ever be as good as Caesar? Will I ever be as good as Alexander? I'm the best. So I love this. But really, there should be another panel here with Alexander drawing a picture of Achilles and going, "Will I ever be as good as Achilles?" And then Achilles just being like, "I'm the best."
Exactly. I mean, Caesar had a huge breakdown because he wasn't as successful at the same age, didn't he?
Yes, but like Alexander was straight up, "I'm gonna become the next Achilles. I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna go to the tomb of Achilles and I'm going to go there with Hephaestion, and we're going to name ourselves Achilles and Patroclus."
Mo Big says there's a meme about this, and now I have to find it.
They even showed Azraella in that meme. Oh, he's talking about the cat.
I know.
In the meme, he's laughing at the cave drawing, which is the
oh.
It looks like,
that is fantastic. No, this meme.
You love it.
Okay.
Anatolia, Phoenicia, Egypt, Persia. Yes.
Oh, the Phoenicians. Leave them alone. They did. There's nothing.
This one was one of my favorites.
I love this one.
Persepolis. A bit of a low blow. I do really think that Alexander wanted to keep Persepolis around, but he could not. Like literally, if he did not do it, he would have. If he did not burn down Persepolis, the Greek city-states back home would have had every reason to revolt. And while he had Antipater back in Macedonia that was more than capable of dealing with small-scale revolts, if the entire Greek Peloponnese unified under a single banner to take down Macedon, they would have succeeded. So, shield wall. Oh, are those shields for real? Yes. Is that Achilles from Troy in the center?
I think so.
Oh my
That's
God.
why I liked it.
Oh, I hate this so much. They're literally using freaking Sarissa, and you have Achilles from Troy in the center. Everybody else is in period accurate stuff, and then there's just Achilles from
You're
Troy.
welcome. That was planned.
We will talk about this after the stream.
No, we won't.
That hurt me on a deep level.
Show me on the meme where you got hurt.
Yeah, I know. Evolution. Australopithecus, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Homo sapiens Neanderthal, Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo Alexandrinos. Yes. I don't know who you are, but I will find you and I will name your city Alexandria. I mean, to his credit, he also named one Alexandropolis, and he named one Bucephalus and one Hephaestopolis. So he did have some name variety. Alexander the Great, the Persian Empire, Egypt, and part of India. Alexander's Empire. Yes. That's awesome. Well, I'm off to Persia now. Shit.
That one's great.
Yes. Say hello to my little friend.
I love this one. Can you
little.
imagine? Just a big porcupine.
I mean, this is what it's all about.
I know. That's what it's exciting.
Hold on. We've got some people in the chat. Hold on. How could you not let me know, Miranda? You've been in there. We've got a good stuff. Hi, everyone.
Because you were being sad.
Well, you're the one that had Brad Pitt's Achilles in the middle of a Sarissa.
You didn't notice it earlier, though.
Oh, God.
Food stuff.
And you can call him food stuff. They're making a cookbook.
It was my phone. It did not do well.
It worked because he has a cookbook coming out. Yeah.
So what kind of cookbook? Is it one with extracurricular spices?
All Good Stuff is launching his tomorrow at 7:30. Hey, Good Stuff, I want to let you know that Dean is working on your cover piece for your guys' cookbook here as we speak. He said that he was starting that here today. He has a certain set of skills. Good luck on the launch, brother. Because you were being sad. If you let that stop you, you won't be able to interact with Ogden at all. Oh, here we go. Sad boy Ogden.
Yes.
Oh. Well, we have an engaging chat. It might not be the largest one, but it's certainly one of the most entertaining. So
Mo's there. That's what matters. He is.
I mean, yes, Mo is Mr. Personality. That's what we like about him. But all right. So let's see. Do we have any more? Yes, we do. When you want to teach philosophy to the young, but they only think about conquering the world. Hey,
I think that's one of my very favorites because
you have
to be nerdy to get it.
To that effect, Alexander actually did right by everybody not paying attention to all of Aristotle's philosophical stuff because Aristotle was a huge asshole.
He was.
Just like all these barbarians are just ignorant people, and you should treat them worse than livestock. Treat the Greeks well, but the Persians, they're barbarians.
There was no Archimedes.
No.
But
Leonidas is such a great king. Shut up and kneel to Alexandros. Yes. All the yes. Meanwhile, in Persepolis, Wait, I left the oven on back home. Yes. But Alexander, you can't conquer an island. That's where you're wrong, kiddo. Yes. Siege of Tyr is fantastic. One of these days we will do a stream on Tyr. It's a great battle.
Will it make
Bye
you
bye,
tear up?
Darius.
Don't gatekeep my joke. Will it make you tear up?
Oh, hold on. Wait, you can't say you don't gatekeep my joke. It's not in the chat.
But you ignored it twice.
It's a legit cookbook. No Mary Jane in this one. Oh, okay. So will I tear up? Oh, God damn it. I love you. All right, let's keep going. And then
no.
not the greatest day for you.
For the people who don't know, that's obviously the guy who doesn't win.
Yes, that's Darius that's Darius the Third. He is not having a good day at the Battle of Issus. Woman at the time machine. I love this.
Me too.
So it's just like, Alexander, please don't drink tons of unmixed wine with your friends this time. Otherwise, you will develop a fever and die before you start the Arabian campaign. And then just giant thing of ancient Greek, which I'm not going to like. I tried to do Greek in college. I couldn't. Like it's hard. Alexander the Great, 0.02 seconds after conquering all the Persian Empire. Guess I'll die. Yeah. Sad times. Who would win? The largest empire to date, spanning from India to Greece, wielding one of the largest armies man had ever seen. Some boys with long poles led by a teenager. Never underestimate the long poles. They go stab. Her, come over. Alexander, I can't. I live in Macedonia, and you're halfway across the world in the Indus River. But my parents aren't home. Alexander. Jesus. Was her name Ocean?
Maybe.
Who would win? A large, prosperous city that once had dominion over present-day Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Israel, along with an intimidating navy. It was literally an island fortress thought to be impregnable by land. One very ambitious Grecian and a whole lot of big stones. Yeah. Siege of Tyr, FTW. All right. That is the end of our memes. So we will close it out. You can still keep someone's jokes by not reacting to them.
See?
Hey, man. I was focused on the memes, man. All right. So, that being said, it's time to watch the Battle of Gaugamela. 331 BCE, Alexander the Great documentary by Kings and Generals, which is always a good decision. They're great.
Yes.
For Alexander,
If you're going to watch a video.
Against Darius III of the Achaemenid Empire, the winter of 332 to 331 was the calm before the storm.
Woo!
During that time, the Macedonian army had what amounted to a holiday in the gentle lands adjacent to the River Nile. But that holiday was now over. As the snows thawed and the spring began, two of the greatest armies of the age were on the march. Alexander's force was smaller, but had proven itself supreme multiple times in the realms of discipline, technology, and command. Darius's newly raised imperial army was massive, its warriors drawn, seemingly endless reserves of his continent-spanning empire. Persia was about to face off for one last time against.
So it's important to note that Alexander's military at this point in time relies very heavily on a heavy shock infantry that stands its ground and creates a bulwark while the cavalry contingent of his force flanks the wings and comes slamming back down on the enemy rear flank to create a hammer and anvil.
Hammer and anvil.
So, one of the things that's very interesting to note, though, is Persia is also a heavy cavalry power. And Interestingly enough, the horses that Persia gets specifically from their province of Bactria are like twice the size of the Macedonian horse tack. So this is not just a battle of superior numbers. The cavalry is larger and is faster than the Macedonian breed of horse. And given that Macedonian cavalry was the key to Alexander's success, and his leading the companion cavalry into the fray and everything is what wins many of his battles. It makes this all the more impressive. So, not to be confused with Ogden's Siege of Tears every time he doesn't embrace off. No. The sepia tone really takes you back to ancient Persia. Oh, absolutely. Because that's where that originated, 100%.
Macedon at the Great Battle of Gaugamela in 331. Having better gear makes a big difference in the chaos of an ancient battle, but it still helps out today, where those with the most get a 2-year plan and an Achaemenid empire. Syria had been secured and administered, followed by Phoenicia, Palestine, and the jewel in Persia's crown, Egypt. But as spring of 331 BC arrived, it was once more time to move on, this time into Persia's imperial heartland. The advance would be risky. Disconcerting news was even now arriving from Greece concerning Agis' revolt. All the king could feasibly do at this point with...
All right, so what he's talking about right now is the Spartans decide to get uppity while Alexander is away. And so they start to try and band a couple of these city-states together, and Antipater just dunks on them. Absolutely neutralizes this threat. And in fact, Antipater does such a good job kicking the dog shit out of the League of Corinth that Alexander is jealous of this and never really forgives Antipater of it, and is like constantly trying to find a reason to get rid of him from regency, which is very funny. But like he literally just did his job, but like his victory over the Greeks is pretty impressive, and Alexander does have a twinge of jealousy over it.
Without abandoning everything he had accomplished, was to send a great fleet of 100 ships to aid any harbor supporting the Macedonian cause. Apart from that, putting down the Greek rebels would be left to Antipater and the men under his command. With that considered,
it should be noted that Antipater at this point in time is like 60 years old.
Alexander again turned east, where Darius and a colossal Persian army were waiting for him. Following one final bout of administrative fine-tuning, the king marched his army to Thapsacus, a major link between Syria and Mesopotamia.
He was a Persian
He arrived between July and August, but an advanced force under Hephaestion had already been present for some time and managed to construct 2 pontoon bridges.
They had the Scythians too, didn't
ready
they?
for the army's use.
Huh?
As a sign of the Macedonian...
Didn't Persia have Scythians too? And their little...
Yes, they did. They have Bactrians, who are a Scythian people. They're from modern day Afghanistan. So yes, they had Scythians and everything like that. And it is in fact Bessus, who is who was a warlord from Bactria, that will eventually kill Darius III, and usurp him before Alexander gets the chance.
Macedonian engineers' skill, these bridges lacked a final stretch on the far bank, preventing any enemy force from effectively using them, and this proved to be a wise precaution. Observing the invaders crossing from a safe distance was a force of 3,000 Persian cavalry outriders.
Yeah, Alexander did not like the position he was in at Granicus. Granicus is a major victory for him, but it was a tough fight because they did not have an easy way across the river, and they were fighting uphill the entire time. So Hazard and military engineering and pontoon bridges.
Commanded by one of Darius's satraps, Mazaeus. Arrian seems to imply that Mazaeus's horsemen were supposed to stop the crossing of Alexander's vastly superior army, but it is more probable that Darius simply required intelligence as to what the Macedonians were doing. There was realistically no chance for Mazaeus to prevent the crossing by himself. Having learned from previous defeats, Darius III had come up with a plan. 70 years earlier, another invasion force, famously including 10,000 Greek mercenaries.
This is about Xenophon's Anabasis. Xenophon was an Athenian that was a part of a mercenary contingent force of 10,000 Spartans that had been hired by a prince of Persia named Cyrus to help overthrow his brother. They won the battle that they fought in, but the Cyrus that hired them died, and so they ended up having to fight their way back from the heart of Persia back to mainland Greece. And Xenophon's Anabasis was actually integral to Alexander's campaign because he drew up several maps of the routes that they took. And so Alexander used those maps as a topographical reference for his campaigns.
Had marched directly down the east bank of the Euphrates with the aim of taking Babylon, as the Persians believed Alexander.
And Miranda, if you have any commentary or anything you want to put in, sweetheart, just let me know. I'll pause and let you go.
I haven't seen this episode.
It's like, shut up, man. I'm trying to learn.
Notoriously bold as he was, would. In that previous clash, the invaders had arrived on a wide, cavalry-friendly plain known as Connexa and were stopped in their tracks. Darius hoped to repeat that feat at the same place, further relying on the blistering Mesopotamian sun and scorched earth tactics to deny the Macedonians food, fodder, and comfort. But while this cunning plan took Alexander's directness into account, it did not account for the king's unpredictability. As a lover of Hellenic works, he too was educated in Xenophon's Anabasis. Therefore, upon crossing the Euphrates, Alexander struck northeast across the Mesopotamian plain, beelining towards the other great river, Tigris. Not only did this completely derail Darius's preparations, but the cooler northern temperatures would be better for the Macedonian army. Upon seeing Alexander's move north, Mazaeus rode hurriedly to inform his master in Babylon.
Why would the cooler have been better?
Well, they're from Macedon, which is which historically is a mountain. Like, think of it like this: Greece is all mountainy terrain. Now that the ad's over, I can share the screen again. But Macedonia, while it has like rich, luscious plains, it's colder. It's northern. You're talking about the gap between like modern day Romania and Greece, right? Like that's where you have it. Like if you look at a map, Macedonia is really kind of on the edge between the Mediterranean Aegean portion of Europe and where it goes and is in like Central Eastern Europe. So
there were elephants in this battle.
Yes,
that's important.
They didn't get to do much though.
No, that's a common theme.
This unexpected turn of events did not paralyze Persian preparations, and a strategic pivot was quickly made. The imperial army would move north towards Arbela and confront.
Do you know how many phalanxes that they used?
How many phalanxes who used? Because the Persians had contingents of Greek mercenaries as well.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So how many did he have?
How many did Alexander have?
Uh-huh.
Well, generally, Alexander's. Hold on. This is what we'll do.
What will we do?
I've got a map. A map. All right. So here we have.
Look how beautiful. See? He's got 2.
He's got a main phalanx and a rear.
That means 2.
No.
Yes.
He also has Parmenion on the wing, which is another phalanx formation, and then these are all cavalry movements. And then you also have Hypsophists and what have you. These are other infantry troops. But then you have Alexander with the X. Those are companion cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe these are companion cavalry. But Alexander's forces are effectively...
I thought the ones off to the side were infantry.
Yeah, but that's all phalanx. Like everything, every infantry soldier that he has is effectively phalanx. He does have some he does have
right. You said that was part of the companion. I'm pretty sure that
right over here where it says Alexander.
Yeah, right there. That is
Alexander is with the companion cavalry. He leads it.
I
wherever Alexander is companion cavalry.
Right, but what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure that the 2 sides were just infantry that swung over, and that's what stopped them from having.
I can see why Ogden was so proud.
But that's how he avoided the double envelopment that he was trying to do there. Huh? Yeah, that's what Darius was up to.
He was more focused on trying to push in through the center of the fountain, and because of the sheer force of numbers Darius has, he almost succeeds. Alexander almost loses this battle. If he did not,
the arrows, it's literally he was trying to double envelop him.
I mean, yes. There is an element of that.
There's a big element of that. Look at all the arrows.
Yes.
There's 8.
This video would be more interesting and interspersed with a British dude standing in some dunes. Yeah. Oh man, that's a good callback.
Fantastic.
Well, we've got a British dude. He's just not standing anywhere.
Hey, Hojo. Hojo's in the chat.
We got a Hojo in the chat. Oh, wait, hold on. I done a goofed. Need to stop this screen and bring back the documentary. Started playing the documentary.
Commanders, this unexpected turn of events did not paralyze Persian preparations, and a strategic...
We needed to speed this up so we can see if I was right.
The Imperial army would move north towards Arbela and confront Alexander...
We need the red and blue squares.
...one another. While Alexander continued pressing on with the river on his right and the mountains on his left, Darius managed to find a perfect replacement battlefield for the Great Plain of Cunaxa near the small village of Gaugamela. He marched his troops up and immediately set laborers to work, flattening hills, clearing rocks and trees, and employing every possible measure to make the plain as flat as possible. The great king was so distracted by this that he failed to take the low hills 3 miles west. En route, Alexander had 2 minor encounters with Persian cavalry forces under Mazaeus, but they were easily put
Let's
to
get
flight.
to the good part.
Further prison, he was deterred from doing so by the ever-realized that Darius didn't intend to move from his pre-selected battlefield, allowing him to encamp and give his men another substantial rest before the climactic battle. During this short lull, the Persians utilized infiltration and assassination tactics, attempting to turn the Greek soldiers against Alexander with promises of gold and other good things.
Pretty shady there.
One of these letters was intercepted, and the king debated reading it aloud before the Greeks to emphasize his trust in them. He was deterred from doing so by the ever-cautious Parmenion, who reasoned that avarice recognized nothing as a crime, not even the murder of a king. Instead, the letter was suppressed and the camp fortified. While most of the army recuperated in camp, Alexander assembled a strong cavalry escort and went to personally scout both the battlefield terrain and Darius's army. When he crested the hill overlooking it, Peter Green suggests that the Macedonian king might have second-guessed his earlier bravado about facing the Persians so brazenly, for what he saw was an army larger even than that he had faced at Issus. More than that, it seemed far superior in armament and skill, possessing a large quantity of fearsome eastern cavalry. That night, Alexander sat awake in his tent for hours on end, analyzing the potential of each Persian unit and considering
look
the
at that
potential
tired man.
damage they might inflict, along with the tactics he could use to gain victory. At some point, Parmenion arrived and suggested that a night attack be carried out, but Alexander stated that he would not demean victory by stealing victory like a thief. Alexander must defeat his enemies openly and honestly. But even Arrian, who usually gushes with praise over the Macedonian king, found it likely that this haughty response was just a smokescreen. He believed instead that these lofty words probably indicated confidence in danger rather than vanity. Rather than the morality of victory, refusal to engage in an incredibly risky, potentially catastrophic night attack was instead simply a sound tactical decision. Pitched battles had worked wonders thus far, and so there was no need to gamble everything in the dark. This proved to be a shrewd decision indeed. While the Macedonian army was resting in preparation for the coming battle, Darius's troops, lacking a camp with fortifications, were actually drawn up in full battle order throughout the night in fear of any surprise assault by the enemy. Not only did the consequential lack of sleep exhaust the vast array of Achaemenid warriors, but waiting hour after hour with nothing to show for it demoralized the Persians greatly, sapping their spirit. Back in the secure Macedonian camp, Alexander at last...
#rest plan is important.
Yes.
For all of you butter bar lieutenants that are trying to be gung-ho about things, make sure that you initiate a rest plan. Because it lost the Persians Gaugamela and it won Alexander it tenfold.
Crossed the T's and dotted the I's of his intricate battle plan, and then simply
Maromi
went to
has
sleep
joined.
in the early morning
Romani
hours.
ite domum.
When the sun
Hey,
rose
man.
above the horizon on the morning of the great Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander
We're
did
actually
not
doing a
rise
little
with
bit
it.
of a
Instead,
shift.
unconcerned by the
Tonight's
gravity of the
stream is
occasion,
when in
he
Persia.
slept.
Let's be great.
On their own volition, the various battalions had breakfast and assembled for battle.
Oh my God. God damn it. Oh, while we wait for the ad to skip. Oh, goodness.
Only when knowledge of Alexander's plan became
It's nice
necessary
when the
for
ad block
deployment did Parmenion, probably rolling his eyes a little, go and rouse the king from his slumber. No doubt curious as to just how the king was able to sleep so soundly when the largest army ever seen was right there over the hill, Parmenion asked him. Alexander simply responded by saying that he had indeed been worried when the Persians had been retreating and laying waste to the line of march. But now that pitched battle was on the cards, by Heracles, he has done exactly what I wanted. Not long later, Alexander and his army strode onto the Gaugamela plain in battle-ready formation.
Let's see if this
Finally,
map
the
is
Macedonian king and his Persian counterpart were face-to-face once more,
It's purple,
and the great
Miranda.
battle for Asia was about to begin.
They gave
But
Alexander
this clash was not to be the
royal
walkover the
purple.
Macedonians might have expected after their winter of luxury.
Looks blue to me.
Darius's army was so massive
Purple.
that its
Might
flanks
just be my
extended
computer.
beyond Alexander's by a
Yeah,
significant
it's definitely
margin,
purple.
and outflanking was virtually assured. The Persian left and right wings were commanded by Bessus and Mazaeus, respectively, while the great king Darius III himself was stationed in the center. On the left, Bessus commanded thousands of cavalry from his own satrapy of Bactria, together with Sogdians and Aracosians. Additional mounted strength was drawn from the nomadic peoples beyond Persia's northern
they have it
frontier,
drawn
So
out.
who
Bessus,
were in military
Bessus
alliance with
fights
the empire,
Alexander's
such as the Saka.
companions on that wing. And like this is like a big deal that Alexander was able to pull this out because these guys are rough.
Mhm.
And as I said, they're running on they are running on better horse tack than Alexander. and his-
Little bummed that they didn't put the Scythians in the horse armor though, because it's pretty cool looking. A little bummed about that.
Did you see that did you see the recreated horse Scythian
I'm
horse
the one
armor?
who shared it.
Yeah, I'm sure that sounds
Step
right.
Bros for life.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
you're
amazing. It's
okay.
really good.
Yeah, it's really freaking cool.
and Dahe siblings.
Granted, you have to remember that this video was done like 2 or 3 years ago, and that recreation was done like 2 weeks ago. So,
I mean,
fighting
that's
as
fine,
cataphracts
but
or horse archers. On the right, Mazaeus had
baby.
Syrians, Mesopotamians, and Medes under his leadership, flanked towards the center by Parthian and even more Sake cavalry. Tepurians, Icanians,
I don't
Albanians, and
understand how he
Sakycinians from the Caucasus and the areas around the Caspian Sea formed the link
how do you
between
have
the right
this
and center.
great of
The vanguard of
members
Mazaeus' wing was composed
and you
of
lose?
Armenian and Cappadocian riders.
Well, the answer is that Alexander effectively goes to try and cut the head off the snake in these battles. And that's really what wins him the day, is he does aggressive pushes through the center line, try and get to Darius, because his whole thing is he wants him killing Darius to be his Achilles Hector moment. This video was done like 3 years ago, and that image was from 2 weeks ago. Where would George Lucas be with that attitude? Jesus. I don't know, man. Fair enough.
See, I like how they have this set up better. You can see the chariots with the elephants. That was the front line.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So
okay, we need to see if I'm right, because that's more important here.
Oh my God.
Mixed Persian infantry and Greek
We're running out
mercenaries
of time.
formed Darius's center, together with the king's personal cavalry, immortals, and the Indian cavalry. 2 more exotic units made their debut in this massive clash. First were the
Scythe
great
chariots.
king's 200 scythe chariots, somewhat experimental shock vehicles with blades on their
Those
wheels.
Okay,
are
that's
tailored
not
to
really accurate. These were not
Why not?
experimental. Scythe chariots had been around for freaking centuries by this point. The Egyptians
Okay,
had
that's
used
not
them.
accurate, but the fact that those things were super cool is.
I mean, yes, they are super cool, but he called them experimental shock units.
well,
They're
he's wrong.
not. They were hardly experimental. The Persians had been using scythe chariots for freaking ages.
The knives on the
break
wheels
apart
just
the
add
fearsome
that little
Macedonian phalanx.
brutality that you
100
need.
of these chariots were drawn up just to the right of Bessus's Bactrians,
Like
and 50 each in
Alexander.
front.
All right, if these were experimental things, how would Alexander have known how to perfectly counter them? Because like that's literally, they send the chariots in, and Alexander deals with those things with his infantry masterfully, and just immediately goes, "Okay, cool. You go on ahead and do that. See how well it goes for you." And he wrecks them. He punishes them for how these scythe chariots are
of
deployed.
the Indians and next to Mazaeus' Armenians. 15 majestic elephants accompanied the Indian contingent. All in all, the Persian army at Gaugamela consisted of between 100,000 and 150,000 troops.
So that's
30
the
to
figure
40
that these guys are going with, is 100 to 150,000 troops. I think that that's a fair thing. I think they're probably playing the middle ground between the reported numbers in the sources and what the modern historians are saying. So yeah, 100 to 150,000 sounds fair.
Oh, now
I
you're
think
going to say I was close.
Well, like this is where this is where this guy is saying. I still think that it's probably closer to 250,000. I think that I think that the fact that modern estimates are still give leeway to 250,000, and that there are primary sources that say 250,000. I think that that's probably around where
I'm
this
just saying
was.
history people did not math correctly.
No, 100%. Which is
The
why
math
it's
is
like
very off.
you had a lot of these guys who were like a million. So like 250,000 is a very conservative number for a Persian army in primary sources dealing with Greeks versus Persia. So
30,000 of which
let's
were
find out if
cavalry.
they were attempting to do the
Alexander's
double.
army of around
I
40,000
don't
infantry
think
and
that's what they were
7,000
necessarily
cavalry
trying to do.
opposed this
I just think that they were
gargantuan
trying
force.
to
On the surface,
hit.
its units were drawn up as they usually were. Phalanx battalions made the solid center. Parmenion and his allied Thessalian cavalry stood guard on the left. while Alexander, the companion cavalry, and the king's usual Agrienes, archer, and hypaspist strike force prepared to smash the enemy army on the right. But there were
Okay,
a
so you
few
were right
notable
there.
differences designed by the king
Yeah.
for precisely this occasion.
And
Both the Macedonian left and right flank guards were angled inward.
yeah, so I'm fairly certain that the whole
See?
point
Right
was
there. It's right there. I'm right.
we're angled inward to better withstand a Persian encirclement attack. But like the whole, I don't even think that the Persians were necessarily trying to do an encirclement. I think that Darius put these units on his wings to directly challenge Alexander and Parmenion to ensure that they weren't able to flank and get into him.
In order to better withstand a Persian encirclement attack. The second line of 7,000 Greek hoplite infantry was also arrayed behind the first
What did he just
Macedonian
say?
line, with orders to turn and
He
face
said hoplite infantry. So like there is a whole debate on whether or not it's hoplite or hoplite.
It's
I-
hoplite. Let's just.
I agree.
any attempt at encirclement by the enemy.
Hoplite sounds like a bad
Hopefully,
coffee.
twisting the flanks as he had
Yes.
and deploying such a reserve would hold the Achaemenid cavalry off until the battle was won. Confident in his army's supreme
Nice
discipline
eagle.
and fully prepared to exploit Darius's plan, Alexander ordered his entire line to gradually shift to the right. Simultaneously, the king personally took his right wing and began an oblique advance, as though aiming to outflank the Persian line with his numerically inferior forces. At once reacting to this unexpected maneuver,
Yeah.
Bessus flexed his strength by stretching his cavalry even further out, always keeping outside of the Macedonians. This in turn dragged units away from the Persian center. All of a sudden, it became obvious to the Achaemenid leadership that by edging his army to the right, Alexander was attempting to move the battle away from the leveled plain, therefore rendering much of Darius's long-planned strategy null and void. Regardless of his lacking numbers, Alexander continued drifting right until he was just short of the cleared zone. Anxious to avoid fighting on the rough ground, Bessus finally committed his wing by launching a direct charge against the Macedonian right. This commitment was precisely the move Alexander had been attempting to provoke.
Oh, that's perfect. That's right where we want it. Hoplite, mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. I mean,
Yes.
As his companion cavalry joined battle with the ferocious Sake-Bactrian horse that formed Bessus's vanguard, the Macedonian king fed additional units into the fray from deeper on his flank. Naturally, Bessus responded by committing the majority of his strength with the hope of crushing Alexander and
Which
rolling
doesn't
up
work.
his army. As this engagement was progressing on the Macedonian right, Darius III believed that the moment had come to wipe out this troublesome invader from the
Oh, he
west
is
once and
troublesome.
for all. On the other Persian flank,
always troublesome.
Lysias launched an overwhelming cavalry assault against the ever-stalwart Parmenion, who was, as always, desperately outnumbered. All across the line, Persian-sized chariots, 200 of them, barreled forward.
I am like convinced that Alexander spent a very good portion of these early campaigns setting up strategies to like try and get Parmenion killed. He really did not like it's one of those things where I don't think I've seen a source outright say that he didn't like Parmenion. He's certain there's definitely confirmation that Parmenion's, I think it was his eldest son, Alexander did not like. And when he has that son executed for being a part of an assassination plot, which he probably had nothing to do with, he uses this as a way to kill Parmenion as well. But like, Parmenion is a guy from Alexander's dad's cabinet. And Alexander and his dad had a very complicated relationship. They did not particularly get along well. And Parmenion was the constant naysayer of anything Alexander wanted to do. And so I'm like 90% certain that Alexander was just hoping he'd get killed.
I feel like he was way sassier than people give him credit for.
Oh, 100%. Alexander was very much
The whole poet thing still has me in stitches now and again.
In an all-out rush
No.
to smash the Macedonian phalanx. Exercising the lockstep discipline for which they were known, Alexander's phalanx battalions refused to be intimidated by these contraptions. Instead, they simply opened lanes within their ranks, into which these horse-drawn chariots sped impotently. A few casualties were inflicted by the chariots here and there, but an effective combination of Agriani javellineering, royal guard, and army grooms put an end to Darius's wild card, ripping the drivers from their vehicles and killing them. On Alexander's right, the clash between the companion cavalry and Bessus's horse intensified still further. For the Macedonians, it was a ferocious battle against the odds.
Oh, what is
Peter
Mo
Green
saying?
stating that Alexander's 1,100
I
strong
already
spearmen
used the
were
not
fighting a
caring what
force
history
10
books say
times
joke,
its
but
own
my grandma
size.
still says Alexander
Still
was
more
younger.
Persian cavalry units from the center entered the fray, attempting to dislodge these brilliant Macedonian warriors. It was then that Alexander saw his great opportunity. The singular focus on Bessus's engagement with Alexander had revealed a dangerous weakness in the Persian left center, precisely where Darius himself was positioned. The line had been frayed, and many units that would otherwise have been protecting the great king were now absent, committed to fighting against the companions. Now, leading a spearhead of his companions, hypaspists, and several unengaged phalanx units, Alexander charged Darius directly. With the raising of a great battle cry, the Macedonian king's wedge
how he's
mercilessly
able to do
cut
this.
into the formation.
As I said, Alexander is constantly looking for a way to cut the head off the snake in any given pitch battle. This is what he does in Issus. This is what he does here in Gaugamela. It doesn't matter what. Alexander finds a way to get to Darius, because if he at the end of the day, if he's able to fight Darius one-on-one, he's confident that he is going to win that fight because he wants it more.
I mean, he should be. He already beat him more than once.
But he's confident he's going to win that fight if he is able to get to him. But there is also equal chance that Darius's advisors are going to tell him, hey, man, you need to get out of here. Because if you die, your cause dies. And this man becomes the king of Persia. So long as you're alive, there is a contender to Alexander's power, and you are more dangerous alive than obviously dead. But at the end of the day, it's foolproof for him. Is the moment he is able to, he goes and he tries to strike at Darius, and this will be the last chance that he gets to do it. It does not go in his favor. Within the next year or two, Darius will be dead. And he will be killed by Bessus, the guy that Alexander was having the melee with over on the wing. Really, getting Bessus away from the battlefield was the way they won this battle, because Bessus has the best cavalry in the world at that time. He's got Bactrian and Scythian cavalry that are just unmatched by anything else Darius has in his army, and frankly, even what Alexander has in his.
Sources say.
Oh God, I was not ready. Mo says you are more dangerous alive than dead, but what if he died in an important water source? Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Surrounding his Persian counterpart, fighting was brutal and hand-to-hand. Macedonian cavalry spears thrust forward into the faces of the Persians, and Alexander even had more than one horse killed under him. With the help of the phalangites, Alexander sized his way closer and closer.
It should be noted that the horse Bucephalus was not the horse that got killed under him. Bucephalus lived all the way through the Indian campaign, and if we are to believe the primary sources, died shortly after the Hydaspes campaign.
To Darius, the Persian king, who had grown increasingly uneasy ever since the battle began, is said by Curtius to have drawn his sword and prepared to defend himself. However, even with the fate of his centuries-old empire on the line, Darius's skittish nature once more got the best of him.
Okay, so this is where Greek sources are not particularly fair to him. Darius in the Greek sources is very frequently depicted as a cowardly ruler. However, this does not really line up with a lot of what we know about Darius III's character. He came from a side branch of the Achaemenid royal dynasty line, and he was a prominent warrior of his day. Alexander
they definitely try to take away credit from him, and I mean, look at them making Persia the bad guys anyway. I mean,
well,
it's a lot.
I mean, like at the end of the day, the Greeks had a massive grudge against Persia. They burned down Athens twice, and Athens were the people that were writing all the history books at the time. So yeah, there was a grudge there.
The winners are the ones who write the books.
But like the fact of the matter is that the Persians, more than likely, I would say, Darius was forced to leave the battle, because we have even found primary sources that state that Darius wasn't like fleeing, and that he did brandish his sword and he was going to fight Alexander until his subordinates insisted that he leave.
Yeah.
Because Alexander had been stomping them all over the place. There was no morale. The Persians were starting to think that this guy was unbeatable, and he frankly was.
I mean, if that was the case, why did he take so long to take off? You know, it was like halfway through where
we've got a Nicole Rogers in the chat saying that she made it. Thank you so much for coming out to hang out. But like the fact of the matter is that Alexander had the best trained, best equipped army of its time, and he had commanders of capable background, unmatched by any military of its period. The bloodshed that is ensued by the Deodaki Wars, which are also known as the Successor Wars, which are what happens to Alexander's empire after he dies, is testament to this. The territories that Alexander conquered don't return to some autonomous state after he's dead. His successor generals claim fractions of it and they fight over it. And these campaigns are bloodbaths. And really showcase just how these guys wage war on a completely different level. And they are Alexander's handpicked by the end of his time. Like by the time Alexander dies, all of the people from his dad's old guard are pretty much dead, with the exception of Antipater back in Macedon. This is a big Alexander is without a doubt the military genius of his time, and his generals are pretty damn close to
Isn't
second.
he like the military genius of a lot of people's times, like to this day, though? I mean,
I
if
would-
you
I
really
would
want to
say
get to
the
the
only
nitty-gritty, I feel like no one has surpassed this guy.
I would say Napoleon Bonaparte absolutely has matched his accomplishments,
no.
if not overcome them. If
How
you
dare
gave Alexander and Napoleon Bonaparte armies of equal resource and strength, Napoleon wins that fight 9 times out of 10.
I don't think so.
I absolutely do. Napoleon was like the math, just like literally the strategy to beat Napoleon was don't fight Napoleon.
But it was
'Cause when you
Napoleon
fight
wasn't
Napoleon,
fighting against
you win.
elephants. You know what I mean?
I mean,
It was completely different warfare. So I don't feel like it's a fair comparison.
yeah, but
One's cannons, one's elephants.
I mean, yeah,
I want to see how Napoleon would face up against an elephant. Let's put hand-to-hand combat.
You mean an elephant with a stick? Because he absolutely could have with the cannons, he absolutely would have destroyed the elephants.
We need to do a show just on that, I think.
Oh, big sis. Next, you're
Who
going
would
to say
win?
Josephine was better than Encephalus. Probably.
Amazing.
Not by a very narrow margin.
We need to do like a show on who was the greatest general
I-
of all time.
I will get Aldous in on this, and I guarantee you Aldous will back
He's
me
gonna
up.
pick Napoleon. That's not really fair.
It's the numbers alone.
Let me get the guy who loves Napoleon, and we'll make it a fair fight. Is that what you're saying?
Look, man, I think that Alexander is unparalleled in terms of the ancient world, but in all of human history, Napoleon Bonaparte by sheer numbers.
But who did Napoleon base his stuff on? Who did Caesar base his strategy on?
Napoleon actually took a lot more out of the playbook of Caesar and Barca.
Hannibal. Yeah, but still.
But like
we know he took stuff
core,
from Hannibal because he was like, let's go through the Alps. And only cool guys do that.
Oh my God. All right. Just have them battle in Warhammer 40K. Fair enough. All right.
By the rampaging elites of the Macedonian army, the King of Kings turned tail and ran for his life. Witnessing
That's
the royal
so
flight,
disappointing.
the majority of the Persian center collapsed.
I would genuinely love to see like a Max style series of Alexander that actually does Darius III some justice. Because like literally the stuff that's written about him in, I think it's like specifically Arian, is like, oh, he was such a wuss, right? And like there's a lot of people that echoed that sentiment. It was a very Greek thing to point to the effeminacy of Persian culture in their eyes and state and just try to bash them in any way, shape, or form, because the Persians wore makeup under their eyes. The Persians did this, the Persians did that, and all of these customs that were so utterly foreign to them were seen as lesser by the Greeks. But this is obviously not something shared by Alexander himself, who starts to adopt things like Persian dress. There are occasions where he does utilize the Persian makeup.
He had a Persian wife too. I mean,
Bactrian.
I
guess technically his first wife Roxana is Bactrian, and then he does marry one of the daughters of Darius later.
Yeah, that makes her Persian.
Yes, that's
Don't
right.
try to downplay my points.
No, I got it. Like Alexander is a polygamist as a Macedonian king, so
yeah,
that's why we need Steve, that Star Wars boy. He would have made the case for General Grievous. Shit. Oh God.
This was followed by Bessus's left, which gradually began disengaging in good order. The time was now for Alexander to seize Darius, and with him the crown of the Achaemenid Empire, and so the chase began. However, before the bold and triumphant king of Macedonia could ride to claim his imperial prize, an urgent message arrived from Parmenia. The situation in the rear was critical. Unaware that their monarch had been driven off the field, Musaeus and his overwhelming cavalry wing was on the verge of snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Moreover, a stray band of Persian and Indian cavalry had drifted through a gap in the Macedonian phalanx and were ransacking the camp. Almost certainly gritting his teeth in frustration, Alexander looked back to where his loyal general required his urgent assistance, and forth where Darius was distancing himself with every passing second. After that second of hesitation, Alexander turned his troops around and charged the inner rear of the cavalry bearing down on Parmenia.
It could be two birds, one stone.
Although victorious in this action also, against some of the best Parthian and Indian
I feel like you're right about that.
Over
Though,
60
it's not like this the first time.
Like the amount of times that Alexander just go, yes, Parmenian here, have like no cavalry and withstand everything. You were my father's top guy, so surely you could do it. And then, like, any single time that Parmenion tries to offer Alexander advice, you can count on one hand the amount of times Alexander actually listens to Parmenion.
I don't think you need any
like
hands.
Parmenion makes suggestion. Alexander then uses the opportunity to roast him egregiously. This is a really good deal, man. You should probably take it. I would take it. I would too if my name was Parmenion. But I'm not Parmenion. I'm Alexander.
He is so sassy.
Unhinged. Jason, I don't always comment, but I don't always watch either. Got to go do my thing. Later, Mo Biggs, Nicole Rogers, good stuff in the panel. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us. I hope that what you heard was interesting, because I know you can't see a damn thing. Love you, buddy. But all right, let's finish this video
were
out.
killed in the battle's hardest fighting.
Then you got to get
We'll
going.
talk
The
about what's
vast
going up later
majority
tonight,
of Darius's
and
army
then
scattered
roll
to
out
the
for the
four
evening.
winds, and the Macedonians fully in control of the field, Parmenion rode to secure the Persian camp. The troops, meanwhile, were allowed a well-deserved rest. Alexander could hardly be too irritated that his enemy had escaped. Darius's second great army had been almost totally destroyed, his authority undermined, and the great king himself shown to be a coward unable to defend his empire. That
Really don't like that, but
I don't
I mean,
either. I was going to say something about that.
Going ahead.
About how they're running with those.
Oh,
I was very annoyed by that in the background.
That's not even what I was talking about. I just don't like it.
You don't like him being a coward, but I'm over here like judging harshly the way they're running with this.
I'm fairly certain that that's Total War 1 engine.
I know, it still made me cringy.
The fact that they still look this good on Total War 1 is still very impressive. Like Mo Biggs is in the chat. Hashtag cowards. Okay. All right. So I think that closes out that video pretty much. We got a minute left. So to be fair, we all know the narrator could have done a better job in his shoes. I mean, yes, I guess. Okay. All right.
If they were new sneakers, he'd be fast.
First off, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's come out here and hung out with us in the chat tonight. It's always a blast doing one of these streams. I know it's been a hot minute since we've done one in Rome, and I need to get that opener video edited, as Matt is no longer the co-host. I am joined by the lovely Miranda Barca. We might even just have a new video done all together, just so we can have some fun stuff. But that being said, tonight at 10 p.m. I will be on Reni's show promoting the launch of the Embrace 1 and 2 coming to Kickstarter. So real quick before we roll out.
Wait, is it Kickstarter or Fund My Comic?
But to Fund My Comic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All new, all different men in Rome. I love Mo so much. So in the chat, I have posted up the chat. This is in the chat. This is the link to the Fund My Comic. It has not gone live yet. So
let's point out your picture for Mo. It's not the other one.
This is our Ogden is spreading misinformation about his own campaign.
Yes.
But so this is our spooky season Fund My Comic exclusive cover by Shelby Robertson. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you backed the Indiegogo, I will be sending out an email here shortly that has the coupon code to get you free shipping on this cover. So please make sure that you're checking for that. And we hope to see you on the campaign here. Still same stuff as before. I should also note that we had the fantastic Rich Ayala do these beautiful sketch cards of one of Strangle, one of the Embrace, and then one of the Embrace versus Sully Cucaracha from Roach Balls that you can purchase on there as well. So with that being said, this has been another successful stream of When in Rome. We got up to like 7 people in the chat.
It's When in Persia.
Oh, that's right. Tonight's When in Persia.
You don't know what's going on. It's a good thing you got me here. Steer you in the right direction.
I'm a mess.
You're doing a campaign for Fund My Comic, and this has been When in Persia.
Oh, shit. All right. Thank you to everybody who came out in the chat. Thank you to my lovely co-host. And we will see you guys here hopefully next week. Do you think you can do it next week, Miranda?
I'm always available to talk about history.
We'll figure out a good show to do for next week. But we will catch you all here in a bit. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thanks, guys.
And let's send us out right.
Pizza. Pizza, 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 pizza.